Greetings again, friends. In my last video, I started talking about and thinking about the will of God and what competes with the will of God. Now, this is such an important subject that I will probably do a couple more videos discussing this subject. Now, as I noted last time, we can often learn about something when we decide and look at what it is not. And so when we understand that, it helps us to see what something is. And so we determined last time, that's why we did that video entitled Do the Will of the Devil. And that helped us to see what wasn't the will of God. Okay, so go and watch that video if you haven't. And what I want to do in this video is to kind of play off of something that was at the end of that video where we looked at Lucifer's 5 I will statements. Now, we looked at what the Satanic Bible said about Lucifer's or about the devil's will. That's the Satanic Bible. And then we saw in the Holy Bible what Lucifer said about the 5 I wills that caused him to fall. This leads to this study, and let's review those 5 I wills so we can understand I will. Now, reviewing those, we see the 5 I will declarations of Lucifer are: elevation, I will ascend; exaltation, I will exalt; emperor, I will also sit on the mount; eminence, I will ascend above; equality, I will be like the Most High. Lucifer took his will and he reasoned that he could go beyond the purpose that God had for him. And this is what led to his fall, and mankind easily falls into the same trap. So we should think further about this understanding I will. Now, as I was thinking about this, I wanted to break it down. So when you think about I will, you declare at least 2 things. 1, will, the ability to reason and make an independent choice. 2, I, which is a personal choice that is made from the ability to reason. Now, thinking further about I will, a third observation emerges, and it is this origin question that looms. Where did this ability to say I will come from? Well, it had to come from someone who gave it. So we know that mankind is different from all other life forms in the creation, and we know that mankind's ability to reason and to make personal choices puts him in a greater mind and will that would have to have been given. So we know that this origin question kind of leads us to understand that the mind and the will go beyond just the brain. And the brain itself is not determining the intelligence by its mass or size alone. We know scientists have studied very small things. Microscopic things you can only see with that microscope, and looking at those life forms, you see amazing organization and predictability in what the organisms will do. Even thinking about the tiny brains of an insect, like a gnat or a fly, that determines the ways it goes and the directions, and just considering this helps you to see that there is some ability that exists in a tiny little brain that would be inside of an insect. Or if you look at larger animals, you will see that even The larger animals might have a large brain or a small brain, and it doesn't exactly correlate to the intelligence. Thinking about it even with human beings who have similar size brains, the mass and size of the brain does not necessarily indicate a certain level of intelligence because there are varying levels even among humans. So we know that there's something more than just the brain's mass. There's something that gives it a mind or a will. And this comes from the Creator. So you have this third observation from I will that gives this broader perspective, and it is declaring the ability to will has been given by a greater will. Our Creator God has created beings with sense and understanding and reason to be able to do what He wills. And of course, we have human beings that are made with this self-will. That's not an absolute will that can do just anything or overtake God's will, but as the Creator, He will still have that dominant will from whatever will has been given to the creation. So in the review, we see the three things that I will declares. One, will, the ability to reason and make an independent choice. Two, I, a personal choice is made from this ability to reason. And three, this ability to will is given by a greater will. The self-will of man is also distinct from any self-determination or will of an animal. We know that mankind has more freedom and a will that is more than just an instinct, more than just the limited determination that an animal would have. Animals cannot fully understand and determine the purpose that they have or any will that they desire. They have no real choice to deny their purpose that God has made them for. Now, you should go and review another video that I have done that is a recent video that's called Our Primary Purpose. But as human beings, we possess this real choice to deny a will. We can deny or we can accept our Creator. We possess this will to resist His will. We possess this, and He's given this ability in the freedom that He's given to us. We can put our will, the self-will, above His will and His self. This is because this is because we are made in His image. He made us this way, and we cannot do something greater than Him. But being made in His image, we have this ability to will. Now, the problem is because our spirit has been separated from God, we have this deadness, this corruption inside of us. And it causes us to defy God's purpose for us and His will. The problem is always the same. Even as I have detailed in the past with the video called The Problem, Sin. Now, I know I'm speaking a little bit heavier in thinking this through a little bit, but I hope you're still with me to hear the thought process that God brought me to. The image of God within us has been corrupted, and with this deadened spirit that exists in us, we no longer on our own seek after God. We don't seek His perfect will, and we don't understand our purpose fully. It's only when we realize that we lack some understanding that we will turn to our Creator God, and we'll turn to Him for help in prayer. Lucifer had this problem where he focused on his beauty. He focused on his position and the perfection of his position. His will had been untested, but then, as it was tested, he chose to go against the purpose that God had for him, and he willed to exalt himself above God, or to be above him and equal to him, as we talked about in the 5 I wills. So after he fell, of course, he went to attack the crown of God's creation, which is us as human beings. And when he did so, he deceived the woman, and caused her to question God and then disobey God. And then she gave that to Adam, who then chose her above the companionship and walking with God. And when he did that, to choose Eve, who he named, as the companion instead of God, then it caused the whole creation and all of human beings to be corrupted and born apart from God in that seed that came from him and all the human race coming from them. So you might want to think about this more in the video that I did not too long ago called Are You the King? And getting into the pride aspect there. But even today, think about this, even today, even men fall into this same trap, because this pride trap is choosing to be out of God's will, thinking that you are the king and you can will what you want to will. And also the desires that men have cause them to choose a woman over God. So when men do this, they're most often doing this to fulfill their own desires and their own will, but they could even exalt a woman, and whether it is the man or the woman that is exalted, it is still the sinful self that is exalted and not God. So only when a man is surrendered to God can he love a woman the way that God intends. And when he puts the woman above God, then he's just going to have trouble in exalting himself, and the union may even dissolve because of the selfishness that would exist in that. Now, the woman has to choose God's will too, because if she does not see her purpose in being the helper for the man, then she will end up trying to control, and that is part of the curse too, as it's played out. So when she fulfills the purpose of the Creator, then she finds satisfaction in her life because she's doing the will of God. Now, I know that this teaching offends the popular culture. Our popular culture does not want to emphasize surrender to anything. It emphasizes self-determination, which is part of what we talked about is in the Satanic Bible. Now, we do have this determination in the will that God gave us, but we are not to go against God's purpose for us, because if we do that, then we get out of his will. Now, the world will try to even blur the lines between male and female, as we know has been promoted in the previous administration in America and promoted around the world that way. Or it comes in men thinking that they're superior to women, or women, because they can bear children, thinking that they are superior to men somehow. And this is all part of the problem that comes when we put the self-will above God's will and his purpose. And that's what Satan did. He went against God's purpose for him, and it caused him to fall, and it will happen to people as well. God's will is always the greatest, and what he wills is what he foresaw even in the past, even in eternity past. God saw he had a plan in place to reveal more of who he is through what he allowed to happen into the creation. He allowed this subjection to sin for a greater purpose of hope in what he would do. The point here, though, is that God gave this freedom, this will, that would cause people to have this choice to disobey him or not. And this would let sin come into the world, where God could then illustrate his grace and mercy toward man in what he would do to have a Messiah come to redeem. This is his will, and so this was accomplished. You can go look at another video that I did where I recorded this thinking more in that video, The Philosophy of God, and that might help get into more who God is and why he did what he's done. But God knew he would have to suffer. He knew that this was going to be part of the history, and that atonement would have to be provided for man so that there could be redemption and forgiveness from sin. In that incredible book of Revelation, and I have a lot of prophecy videos on this channel, but in that incredible book of Revelation that we went through a lot of things there in that, all the way through that book, there's a very interesting verse in that chapter that talks about Satan in Revelation 13. And the end of that verse says something that I want to bring out here. It's Revelation 13:8. It says, "All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world." Here we are told that the Lamb was slain from the foundation of the world. God had planned this. This was part of his purpose to reveal himself and to bring atonement and forgiveness possible for man through what had been lost in Adam. Now, a verse I often use in describing what this plan and purpose was is what Jesus himself said. In Luke 19:10, he says, "For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost." Man's will had ruined the world. Man fell into the same rebellion that that Lucifer fell into in becoming Satan. And the I will of man is the same I will of Satan. And both man and Satan professing I will, the way that Lucifer did, will be against the will of God. Satan wants you to glorify yourself. The Satanic Bible says that. Be true to yourself. Emphasize the self. He wants you to make decisions. He wants you to rebel against authority. The Bible says differently, but the Satanic Bible says that. And so Satan wants you to rebel against any restraint and any authority and promote yourself. And that's what many people do. Now listen to how Peter describes this in thinking about this will and this corrupted self-will of men. Peter says in 2 Peter 2:10, "And especially those who walk according to the flesh in the lust of uncleanness and despise authority. They are presumptuous, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignitaries." So we see that this is the description of someone against God's will. Now in Philippians 2, Paul reminds us about how our will and our mind should be in the same mindset of Jesus Christ. Philippians 2 is a great chapter, and it says in verses 3 and 4, "Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. Let each of you look out not only for his own interest, but also for the interest of others." Then he points us to the will of Jesus Christ. Listen to this in 5 and 6. "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God did not consider it robbery to be equal with God." Jesus did not have an exalted attitude. His own will was not emphasized with his position that he had in heaven of equality with God. He didn't hold on to that. He was willing to come down and lower himself into a body. Listen to how he continues here in verse 7. "But made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant, and coming in the likeness of men." Jesus came in humility, and he came as a servant for the benefit of mankind. Listen to verse 8. "And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross." Jesus willed to do what the Godhead had already planned way back in eternity past, before even the creation. Jesus submitted to the death of the cross so that he would take our judgment, so that we could be redeemed and we could be forgiven from this sin and this separation from God. Listen to this same attitude Jesus portrayed in Luke when it says, as he was in the garden praying in Luke 22:42, he said, saying, "Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." Jesus willed what was planned by God, and this is something he was willing to do. And his power is what raised him from the dead, and showing that power over death through that resurrection, and his power to give the eternal life and make alive that spirit that had been dead, to allow communion with God again. So friends, there's so many things that we could learn about the will in the Bible, just looking at different verses and things, and maybe we will look at that more. But one verse to consider that is reminded to us by James, talking about will, it says in James 3:16 this, "For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there." So friends, your "I will" and your self-seeking will lead to death and destruction. Only when you surrender your will to his will, then your path will be life and it will be edifying. So we'll look more about his will in the next video. So like this video, share it with others so they can think about the "I will," a different perspective on this selfishness that you know exists in the world. Share the video and subscribe to the channel, please. We've got to get those subscriptions up to get this message out. Hit the notification bell so you'll be ready for the next video, and be sure to surrender your will to his will.